Hello, and welcome to Exploring the Holos. My name is Andy, and today we're going to talk about sentience, consciousness, metacognition, and how it all relates to a higher consciousness, and why that's important. So, a lot of people think that anything that is awake or alert is conscious. That would be the empiricist definition, I guess. But what they're really talking about is sentience. Most animals are sentient, like wild animals or even pets, because they're not self-aware. They don't have an analog eye. Like the analog eye would be a self-awareness, and animals in nature are caught in the moment and not really. Let me see if I can move this up a little bit. There. Animals in nature, newborn babies, they just live in the moment. They have no self-awareness. So they are considered sentient. Science would have you believe that plants even are sentient. That might be. They can feel somewhat. But it would be less than animals, The lower the being, the less sentience it has. So that's what sentience is. That is just for animals. And consciousness would be for humans. Humans have consciousness because they're self-aware. They have an analog eye, a concept of I themselves, okay? Which is really hard to explain, but I think most of you get it, right? So like if you had a baby and put them in front of a mirror, if they realize that they're looking at themselves in the mirror, that would be a self-awareness or a consciousness. And before that, they're not conscious. They are sentient. And so if you read the book Lucid Waking, which I've shown a picture, I think, before I started talking, and I'll put it up again at the end. It's a very good book, Lucid Waking by Jack Tanner. That's got to be my favorite book. I mean, I really love Thomas Stark books for the math. But man, this book on consciousness by Jack Tanner, Lucid Waking, you definitely should read it. Explain this stuff, a heck of a lot better than me. And so where were we at? Consciousness, people. And this is a question I want you to think and ask yourself. Do you have metacognition? Do you ever think about your own thoughts, your own consciousness, and where it all comes from? Or, I mean, do you think it's just God's voice in your head? Because that's how, according to Julian Jaynes, that's how religion started, with bicameral people that didn't really have a language yet. They would hear voices in their head and they thought it was God talking to them, but it was themselves talking to them. So now you hear your own voice in your head. You don't really hear it like it's a voice, but you hear your own thoughts. That is the same thing, with a little bit of evolution thrown in, because we have a common language And this common language is what gives us consciousness. That's when the newborn baby becomes conscious, when it starts to understand concepts because of our common language. That baby becomes self-aware. It develops an I. I mean, you could even, I'm willing to bet that there's some pets that have developed an understanding of our language to a certain point where they realize their self-awareness. I mean, there's no hard, fast test or, well, okay, there's a mirror test, but I mean, that's really hard to administer to an animal. I mean, even understanding of a language, it's not going to have them being able to speak the language. I mean, that's different. So, yeah, in order to have, back to the higher consciousness, in order to have a higher consciousness, you need to have metacognition, concept networking, and a phenomenological experience, which means you need to have an experience that gets you to think that there might be something more, and it gets you to question the everyday reality that no one else questions. With me, I had, in I think the year 2000, I had a seizure and had an OBE for, oh, I have no idea how much time. Time really didn't factor into it. It was a very short amount of time, but I did see myself from the outside, and I felt like I was part of the entire universe, and like the universe was me. And that was my phenomenological experience. The second thing you need to have is metacognition about that experience. You need to think about it. And you also need to have concept networking. And that is all these concepts, you need to be able to link them together and see how they come together to create the total picture. And it's partially why I'm doing these videos. The other half is I don't have any traveling stuff right now, being that it's winter and I'm just not traveling right now. So I'm going to give you information that I think needs to be out there, because the only way we're going to progress as a planet is to have a higher consciousness. We need to have a global community to have a better planet. And the only way to have a global community is to have a higher consciousness. To be, right now we have an analog I. We need everybody to have an analog all. We need everybody to understand that they are themselves and there are others, but they need to understand that those others are also themselves. That borders are only arbitrary. There are no lesser people living outside your borders. Everybody is the same. We're all just minds controlling these meat suits. And when you die, you're going to come right back to this place. Do you want it to be better or worse? We all have to get on the same page before it's too late. And that's all I got for you today. I am thinking of other things for future videos, and it's coming along. So subscribe, tell your friends, share this all over the place. I am Andy. This has been Exploring the Holos. I am Andy. This has been Exploring the Holos. I am Hyperion. Ad Astra, my friends.